And a lot of the work I do, and especially with children and adolescents, is often actually not just with the child itself. Quite often, a lot of the work I do with them is also actually with the parents or even with the family unit. And I think it's really important that one of the questions that comes up time and time again is how did our children learn? How do they get to come as they are in the world and things like that? And I always use the metaphor as a sponge, and it's very much starts with that. When we're born, our brains are taking in so much information, learning so much, adapting to our surroundings. It's learning things like how to walk, language, motor skills. And so our brains literally are like sponges. They're just like that, and they soak up so much water each day. And people don't really realize that when children are at a very young age, from around that, when they're just born and around that 2 or 3 year old mark, and they sleep quite a lot. They need that much sleep because usually they're often processing and storing all that learned information. And what I think is really important, that when I'm working with parents with, there might be problems in the family or problems with the children, is children very much like sponges. As they absorb what's going on around them, and people often forget that they learn by observation. So if they see someone do something, their brain actually goes, okay, this is actually happening and this person's doing that. And then quite often over time, children will start enacting that. And that's because we've got these things in our brain called mirror neurons, which literally are what they say. Like, they're neurons that over time, as they absorb what's going on in the surroundings, they actually begin to mirror those behaviors. So over a period of time, and a really big important one here is around the idea of children with emotional regulation and self-regulation, is that if we have the tendency to shout or scream or things like that, to act quite out there, then often our children over time, or children around us, will start to exhibit those behaviors in different settings themselves, because that's how in their world they're learning to be in the world. They're watching someone else and going in their mind, this must be how the world will be. So I think it's really important that when I work with children, and then I also do some work with the parents or the family, is actually just having this conversation, actually going, often we get to where we are because we've actually learnt it through others, or we've learned it through our environment. And so it's so important to be able to then take the time to teach people to step back and self-reflect and going, what am I doing that might be influencing others in so many different ways? And if that's the case, and I'm doing something maybe that I don't like in myself, or that I see in someone else, maybe what could I do differently to start having a different impact on myself, on the world, and those around me?